Do you ever doubt your own knowledge of a subject, even though people often turn to you for your expertise? You might be suffering from imposter syndrome. And that's what we'll be discussing on today's episode of Souls in Bloom.
Future Laura here talking really quick. Sorry to insert myself at the beginning of the video. I just want to say my audio was messed up. It was on the wrong microphone device, but we fixed it about 14 minutes in. So sorry about the audio. Let's get into it.
Hey everyone, I'm Laura.
I'm Kristen.
And this is Souls in Bloom, where Kristen and I have open, candid, unscripted conversations to try to motivate, or rather inspire, your personal growth, and ours too. And today we're talking about imposter syndrome, which, for the record, I had never heard of this until maybe a month or two ago. And I was like, wow, that's a very apt, I don't know, thing that I feel like a lot of us can relate to, at least at some point or another in our lives.
Yeah, so, well, I found a statistic that 70% of people have this thought of this imposter syndrome. 70%. That's pretty big. It's pretty huge.
So you guys probably can relate to this. And if you so let's define it then. It's essentially feeling like you are more or less an imposter in your area of expertise, no matter what that is. If it's at your job or a skill or something like that. And you feel like you're a fraud, even though you're totally not. And you probably have accomplishments to show for it. Maybe you're, a crafter or something. I'm totally not drawing from personal experience. And you have these projects that you finish that are intricate, and you've proven you have the skill to do it. Or maybe you get a job promotion or something like that, and you feel like, I don't deserve this title because there are people out there that know more than I am. Therefore, I am not an expert at this. Or
yes,
I don't know. What else? How would you describe this? Yeah. I wrote down a definition, but
yeah, no, exactly what you said. It's a feeling of maybe self-doubt, insecurity, fear, even maybe lack of confidence, of people not believing in you or not thinking that you are capable, but really you are. So it's just like an internal fight with yourself, but in reality, you are qualified. You do have the skills, whatever the situation may be. So it's like an internal battle.
I think you put that way better than I did.
That's okay.
No, it's feeling undeserving of success and feeling like you'll be found out or exposed. Apparently that's an often a fear.
Yeah.
Of people in the situation.
Almost like people, they don't want you to think that you got that position by luck or by mistake or something. You have that fear too.
Yeah.
That goes with that.
I would say I think in the times that I've felt this, and we'll talk about specific examples from our lives or people we know's lives.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's insecurity.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking people are thinking this about me. So therefore I think about myself, if that makes sense. And the times that I've felt this, and people must think I'm so full of crap or that I don't know anything or blah, blah, blah. They must be judging me. I don't know why I feel this way. I do feel this way. We're talking about the show before the show. I was I don't know how often I feel this way, but now that we're talking about it, I'm I do recall having that feeling quite a few times where I'm they must think I'm, an idiot, basically, on certain subjects or something like that.
But you're not.
I'm not.
Maybe none of us are.
Yeah, that's the whole point of this whole thing, the imposter syndrome. It's you're not. You're good. And the funny thing is, too, that I didn't realize is that this is not an actual, diagnosable condition. This does not exist in, the psychological world. It's a phenomenon that people experience, but it's not an issue that you could be diagnosed with and, treated for in a traditional sense.
So I did learn that, too, when like learning about this a little more, like
Yeah.
how therapists don't, like, they can't really treat this, or they can't like you said, diagnose it. So any therapist would put this under anxiety.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But yet 70% of people experience
I know,
this.
I found that so strange because it seems like a legitimate thing that you would need help for. And I don't want to jump ahead of our, usual formula on our shows, but I will say, if you do suffer from this and it's really affecting you, therapy is a great option to try to work through some of that. So just throwing that out there. So do you how you were talking about Kyle, that you've seen it in him, but we didn't say what. So why don't you kick off this conversation of how this has affected him and personal experience with it.
So I guess I can kind of give, because a lot of what imposter syndrome stems from could be related to how you grew up, or how school was for you. So I think it relates to Kyle's situation. So I guess I'll start from the beginning. He didn't have a very good upbringing with his family. His parents were kind of hands off. He had 3 other siblings and 4 other step siblings. So everyone was kind of just, lost in the mix, whatever. He left home at 16 and created a life for himself. He ended up traveling the country, and all this other stuff. And he ended up getting a job. This is when I met him, local to where my parents live, and became friends with my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, because they worked at the same place doing mechanics, car mechanics, and towing. They actually did towing too. So blah, blah, blah. Kyle ended up getting fired from that job. Stupid reason. Not going to get into it. It has to do with taking a vacation that wasn't authorized. Okay. So anyway, that's how Kyle got the job where he is now with Empress Ambulance as a ambulance mechanic. He ended up working his way up to supervisor, mainly because the company didn't really have any fleet supervisor or any type like that. It was just corporate, and then the mechanics. So he kind of wanted to take a little bit more of a lead role, because nobody knew what the hell they were doing, pretty much. And instead of all the ambulances being fixed in-house, they were sending them out to Ford and everything like that, to be fixed. But why, when if you hire the right mechanics and have the right parts and everything like that, it could be done in-house, saving money. Right. So, corporate loved that, whatever. Long story short, he became supervisor, and then now he's director.
So now, was he the one who came up with the idea of getting the in-house fleet?
Well, whatever the title was there. It was there, but he kind of pushed it to make sure it was always done in-house. They were able to get more employees, more staff, more mechanics, stuff like that, instead of being so backlogged, because there was only 3 of them, fixing a whole fleet of ambulances. So anyway, he's now director of, I think 5 garages, 5, locations. So he is at the point where he is sitting down at conference tables with suits, with these corporate guys in suits, because he's a director. He's, I think he's 3rd or 4th from the top. And he's in all these meetings, and he's sitting there in his mechanic's uniform, and he's kind of I don't belong here. And he tells me that, he's I don't belong here. What am I doing here? I've never even went to college, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. And he struggles with this a lot. And I'm you have to think about, they wouldn't have given you that position if you weren't qualified for it. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what everyone has to think about too. Like when you're feeling these feelings, you didn't get there by accident or by luck, you know, especially if it's job related. You were put there by somebody who thinks that you deserved it. So, you know, you may not be in the suit because you're in the shop. You know what I mean? These guys are behind desks and you're the director of fleet in the shop. That's, you know, it's a little different.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you're less qualified. So I try to tell him that a lot. And I also remind him like where you started, even way back as a kid, you know what I mean? Like all the struggles you had, all the, you know, poverty you had, all that other stuff. And look at you now. You're a freaking director of a nationwide ambulance company. You know what I mean? Like, so that then he's kind of like, oh, you know, all right. Like,
yeah, he accepts it a little bit.
But you know, it's hard. He goes back and forth with it a lot. And then he's like, well, what about if, you know, the corporate sees, what about if they do a background check on me and see that I didn't go to college, I didn't graduate? And I'm like, I don't think they care. Like,
No,
obviously,
yeah.
right. Obviously, if they made you a supervisor and then they made you a director, you are obviously making a difference enough for them not to care. Like you're doing it without the degree. So that's another thing people could think about too. Like you don't necessarily have to have that college degree. No. You know, it may say it, like it may say it on the resume, whatever. I don't know, but like, don't let that hold you back because Kyle doesn't have a college degree.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny that you bring that up because I was thinking earlier about this, and my husband, and he owns a mechanic shop. Both our husbands are in the mechanic field, and he tells me all the time he would much rather, hands down, no question about it, have the guy with the experience working in the garage, even if it's just like not like the highest level mechanic or something like that, but even as a hobbyist, than the person fresh out of school who's never put his hands on a car but has all the book knowledge. Because the guy that's been there touching the parts, disassembling, reassembling, is going to be way more knowledgeable than the guy who just read about it in a book, because books can't predict all these different things that can go wrong. So like, in his eyes, you're way more valuable not doing the school thing and getting straight to like the hands-on, you know, experience part of things. So I'm sure in Kyle's case, it's like that as well.
Yeah, it's actually very much like that because he didn't want the director position because it's obviously a lot more on your shoulders in many different aspects, but they had tried to hire somebody else for the position, but nobody fit the bill. Like he had the experience in the shop. So him being the director makes him more qualified because like you said, he has that hands-on experience. You know, you're not just hiring somebody in from the street that doesn't know how things are working, that doesn't know what works, that, you know what I mean? You're just hiring a suit that follows protocol from a book, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
So yeah, for sure.
And now we've actually fixed the audio, so let's continue.
You were like, aha, I know what wrong.
I just like it hit me. We were talking about it before the show that my audio sounded off, but anyway. Okay, so yes, so going back to husbands working and things, what I was going to say is that my husband Troy, he doubts himself. Like, I don't want to say he doubts his capabilities because he knows he can figure stuff out. He knows he's diligent, but for some reason, he just thinks he's like this. Just another mechanic and like, yeah, I can, like, everybody can do this kind of thing. He does not give himself the credit. He is a damn good mechanic, dare I say it, and like figures out a lot of stuff that other people at his own shop can't figure out. The different shops in the area, the dealerships will send them the cars, and like he's usually doing the like complicated electrical diagnoses, but he won't like. He doesn't give himself credit. It's like, I don't know if this is the same as imposter syndrome, but he just has this mentality that like anyone can do this if they like put in the same amount of time as he has. So like, no, because his brain works differently.
He's definitely
a logical puzzle solver.
It definitely has to do with imposter syndrome, and it is a very very good skill that he has that, because Kyle is like that too. He can diagnose trucks where the rest of his staff cannot. Like he's known as like he specializes in diagnostics. So a lot of other mechanics just aren't good at it. So that does make him special, because in Kyle's shop, he's the only one that, well, I mean, they can diagnose it, but usually they come to a point where they can't figure it out. They're like, oh, I'm stuck. So then they come to Kyle. So that's, Troy definitely has that as a special quality.
Yep. He just doesn't see it as special though.
No.
Yeah, I guess Kyle's the same. Those two, I'm telling you, those two would be like two dang old peas in a pod. And Kyle
Seriously
would get along really well. But anyway, conversation for another day.
One day.
So personally, I've dealt with this, and actually when I got into reselling, I really dealt with this with stones. If you guys don't know, and check us out if you have time and you like our personalities and you're finding this channel before our other channels. Kristen and I both have our own YouTube channels. So those are always linked in the description box below. And I started on YouTube as a jewelry reselling channel, and then I moved into crystals and stones. And then I incorporated more like arts and crafts in it. Now it's like mostly arts and crafts related, with still a lot of jewelry though. I love jewelry. But anyway, so once I moved into crystals and stones, like I knew a lot, but I was still continuously educating myself, because when I sell something, I want to know like all about it. I want to know like its origin, what it's made of, like what minerals are involved in it, where, not just like, I don't know, maybe I should say how it's mined and where it's mined. I just find it interesting. I will admit that I do lose some of that knowledge after I learn it, because like if you don't continuously revisit these same stones over and over again, you haven't seen it for a long time, you're just like, okay, I know something about this, but I can't remember exactly. But because there's like literally an endless amount of minerals to learn, and gems and blah, blah, blah. And then cut gems and rough gems look different and blah, blah. But in any case, as I was getting into selling crystals for like going into years, because it was like a couple years I did this, I really did have that like, what am I doing? I just feel like this person just kind of like, selling crystals, like hacking, what else? I don't know. What is it called? We're hacking. What is that phrase? Like, I
don't know.
Like when you sell low quality, cheap stuff, like at a, I don't know, like a street vendor, hacking.
Oh, not haggling, is it?
Called
Haggling?
Haggling is like where you go back and forth on a price.
Right. Yeah, then I don't know.
Hawking, like you're hawking your stuff off. I don't know, whatever. Tell us in the comments. But you know what I'm saying? Like I just felt like this person, I felt unknowledgeable, even though I knew a lot. And then it really wasn't until recently, I told you about this, and I won't give any names, but I was watching someone recently who supposedly has all these certifications and things. And this person was selling a stone that they were like, my Presidium tested it as quartz, and it's this rare quartz that has this cross in it and blah, blah, blah. And as I'm watching, I was like, that's andalusite. That's not quartz. Like immediately I know. And it's just these little things where I'll watch other sellers or like see videos on things, and I just know more than this person. And I know more. But because I don't have that certificate, because I've never, been a certified gemologist or like gone to school for anything, I'm self-taught. Like I don't feel qualified to, I don't know, sell stuff and like be confident in those sales, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. And I don't know, same to a degree with jewelry, but I know I'm not knowledgeable in some things on jewelry, like vintage jewelry sellers and stuff like that. But but I know my stones pretty well.
That's okay, because I mean, it is just a thought that you have, a feeling that you have. You can, like I say it sometimes, like when I talk about a piece of jewelry that I'm not really sure about, I'll be like, look, I'm no expert.
Yeah. And I think it's fine. Yeah,
we're not trying to be experts, but we know what we know, and that makes us special, because we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to other people, because no one's story is like ours. We're all at different points. We all know different things. Like, you know, like for example, Kyle never went to college, but has a really great job. So there's different, like everyone's different. Everyone's story is different and everyone can be in a different place. And hey, why don't you look into getting a gemologist degree? Like, you know,
pricey. I have looked into it.
Oh, really? You can't know,
really
like just
expensive.
like certificate or course or something.
And I'll have to look again. It may have changed because last time I looked into it, it was before the whole COVID thing. So like they've changed things since then. Back when I looked, it was costly and you had to fly out to California. And then I think the other institute might be up in your neck of the woods, up in New York.
Wow. Yeah.
But either way, I had to travel. And back then I had a less than 1-year-old. So like I wasn't about to go pursue this certificate. And then for what? Like so I can sell more stuff. Like, I don't know. But I probably will look online because I do. And I love diamonds. I think diamonds are super fascinating. So like it'd be cool to be certified in diamonds. But then once again, like then what? Now what do I do with this knowledge? Because I have the certificate. Okay.
It's just for your own, you know, self-assurance and feel a little bit better than you really feel, you know, like you're already confident. Maybe this will help, you know,
maybe
seal the deal.
But yeah. But so like kind of another reason I kind of got, I wouldn't say over that because I still feel that way to a degree, even though I don't really sell crystals anymore, but is that a lot of people come to me and still come to me for stone identification. And a lot of time I can look at it, I'm like, oh, that's this. There are times where I'm like, I'm not sure. Let me like look it up. And I just, you know, the same way you'd identify like, you know, the jewelry you got out of your box that you've never seen before. You can take screenshots or whatever. But the difference is like, once I identify it, I try my best to like commit that to my memory so I can add that to like, you know, my knowledge base of like what something is.
And that's cool. And it can also help your imposter syndrome, you know, maybe it'll help you not have those thoughts.
Hopefully not. Yeah, for sure. Because the more you know, the less you're going to feel like you don't know.
Exactly.
And the other way I feel like this a lot is with crochet and selling crochet. Even though I have like done these big projects before, not that big, but done some bigger projects and like done these stuffed animals, I've sold them. Customers are happy. I still feel like I can't charge this for this. This person charges this for this, and they've been doing this for years. Like I'm not worthy of, you know, that same price point kind of thing. Even though my work is probably every bit as quality as this other person, just because they've been doing it longer doesn't devalue what I've done in the, you know, and that's something I'm struggling with now. But I don't know.
I think you may want to try thinking about the viewers that you do have and the customers that you do have that love what you do and love your work and think the world of it. Like I am like always blown away by anything that you create.
That's very sweet,
you know,
of you.
So you have to try to think more about that, like how like impressed the customers and viewers that you do have are, and that could maybe help a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I do. And, you know, I sold something recently at Christmas to someone local, and they sent me a picture of their child snuggling it at bedtime and was like, first night with the new unicorn. I was like, that's so
awesome.
Sweet. Like, I loved it enough for that. All right. So what I'm going to do really quick was I had found this website that actually categorizes imposter syndrome into 5 different categories. And rather than like try to go from memory, I'm just going to read it verbatim from the website. Cool. The website, because it's short and concise and I think it's helpful. It's called Very Well Mind is the website.com. And so they break it down into 5 types of imposter syndrome. And so it says, according to researcher Valerie Young, there are 5 imposter syndrome types. So, number 1, the perfectionist. You might relate to some of these after you actually hear how they define it. This type of imposter syndrome involves believing that unless you are absolutely perfect, you could have done better. You could have done better. You feel like an imposter because your perfectionist traits make you believe that you're not as good as others might think you are.
Okay.
So actually that, like, doing research on this over and over again, I do see that, like, if you're a perfectionist, this may affect you more than most people, just by design.
Makes sense, but I didn't think about that. So, wow. Okay.
Yeah. The expert, this might be where our husbands fall. The expert feels like an imposter because they don't know everything there is to know about a particular subject or topic, and they haven't mastered every step in a process. Because there is more for them to learn, they don't feel as if they've reached the rank of expert. And in cars or trucks or anything on the road, there's always something to learn, because every single week you're going to run into some problem that you've never seen in your entire career of working on cars or working on trucks.
Yep. Or how it happened. I mean, how many different types of accidents there are, or how something breaks,
seriously.
whatever.
Yes.
But
And it's probably
I feel like, though, is anyone an expert at anything ever? Like, I think there's always something to be learned, right?
Yeah, I would say if this is your definition, then no, you're screwed. You're setting yourself up for failure if you think that you're ever going to be an expert to the point where you, like, know the answer of literally every question. It's not going to happen, because everything's always changing too. And it's like, it doesn't even matter what category you're referencing. Something new is going to be added to it. Like the gemstone thing, going back to that, they're discovering new minerals all the time. Like it would be and there's already thousands and thousands to learn. So, like, no. And then the car thing, it's like, no, you're going to find these weird problems that you didn't even know could happen to a car. You know, it's I saw this thing on my local, like, Reddit page. I don't even know how the heck this happened. Somehow this woman, this was local, had, like, those, like, parking barriers that are like cement. This is horrible description, but it's like a cement stick that just comes out of the ground so that you can't park in a certain spot.
Yes.
Somehow this thing is under the engine, like in the engine. The hood is intact. Like, it's coming out the engine and up through the hood of her car, and the bumper is totally intact. So I don't know how the heck she pulled this off. Like, she must have had to somehow ramp up on it and land, like, down in it on the engine so that it just, like, stabbed up through her engine, and she was stuck on this cement pillar.
Wow.
I guarantee you the tow truck driver's never seen that one before, because, like,
Right?
how would you ever predict that could happen? One, and two, like, there's no way that's happening twice in your career. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, in any subject, and I bet it's like this a lot in the medical field too, the expert thing as well as the ever-changing, you can't really be an expert. I think if you define an expert as just, like, knowing an awful lot, you could be an expert.
Yeah.
But if you define it as knowing everything, nobody's an expert at anything.
Correct.
Is my personal thought. The natural genius, number 3. In this imposter syndrome type, you may feel like a fraud simply because you don't believe that you are naturally intelligent or competent. If you don't get something right the first time around, or it takes you longer to master a skill, you feel like an imposter.
Yeah.
I just feel stupid if I can't get stuff quickly, but maybe that's somewhere, I don't know. All right, the soloist, number 4. It's also possible to feel like an imposter if you had to ask for help to reach a certain level or status. Since you couldn't get there on your own, you question your competence or abilities. It's like if someone had to help you get to where you are, you feel you're undeserving of it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. That's it too. And the last one, it says the super person. This type of imposter syndrome involves believing that you must be the hardest worker or reach the highest levels of achievement possible. And if you don't, you are a fraud. I kind of feel like that ties into the expert a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Similar thoughts. But anywho, I found that interesting. I thought they worded it pretty well. Once again, this isn't a real diagnosis. So, like, this is just, I think, just the website's breakdown of this, but definitely it's relatable. Some of it is definitely relatable.
For sure.
And I think going back on what you said about Kyle's upbringing, I think that too also has a lot to do with, because they don't know what gives people these feelings. But I feel like if you want to go back that far.
Yeah. Like, I don't think he had enough support from his family growing up. And maybe that's where it kind of can stem from. Like thinking that you're not good enough, thinking that, you can't do it, or thinking that like nobody's there to support you. You don't have anyone to lean on. So you kind of think, well, I'm not fit for the job, or I'm not, so I think it definitely has to do a lot with that.
Yeah, I would agree. I blame mine probably on my brothers, who one I don't talk to anymore, and the other one we're pretty close. We text all the time, and they were relentless. When I was growing up, they were so mean to me, both of them. My other brother does not get off the hook. He was so mean too. And they would make fun of me if I didn't know something that they knew, which they were older. I was the youngest. So it's like, I probably didn't know a lot of stuff they do because I wasn't there yet, intellectually, or just, in school or whatever. But it didn't stop them from harassing me about it relentlessly. So like I have that problem where like if I don't know right away or something, then I just feel like immediately like, shut down. But anyhow.
Yeah, so it definitely has to do with the past.
What's that?
I said I think it definitely has to do with the past, at least parts of it.
Yeah. It weighs on you for sure. So what can we do? The question we always must answer during these podcasts. What can we do?
I think it's really a lot of mindset work. Like it's not going to just change overnight. You're not going to solve this overnight. Like I said, Kyle's been he's been supervisor for 2 or 3 years, and then director just for a few months now, but basically since supervisor. So a few years he's been dealing with this. So it's definitely not something that can easily be changed, but I can tell he's getting better. Like,
good.
I think also you can do different things to help you too, not just like changing how you think about things. Like, remember how I mentioned where he felt like out of place in his mechanic's uniform at the corporate, conferences and stuff. Well, now when he knows that there's going to be a meeting, he'll bring a change of clothes and he wears slacks and like a button down, and he has loafers and stuff that he keeps in his car now. So it kind of helps him feel more, part of the gang,
Yeah.
So there's like little things that can be done.
Yeah, that's good. I would also like remind him, I guess. I mean, if it comes up like about him being worried, like, what if I find out I'm not qualified? It's like they would have fired you by now.
Seriously,
if you were qualified for the job, you would not be in that position anymore.
Exactly.
Years in, and he's still got concerns. That's so funny to me because clearly he's doing something right.
Yeah,
multiple things right.
Yeah. So I guess I'll do that on my end. I can help reinforce that he is qualified and he wouldn't be in this position if his his uppers didn't think he was qualified. So they wanted him in that position. They didn't want to hire or interview anyone else, but because he didn't want it, they tried, and then they begged for him. So he finally was like, okay.
Oh, well, that's good. At least,
like he should feel wanted, and that should make him feel qualified enough, right? Like he shouldn't have that thought of imposter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially like really tried to get him to sign on or whatever. Like, obviously you have something in you that they see that you're not seeing in yourself, but it's there.
True.
Kind of thing. I would say like making a list of your achievements perhaps might be helpful, because apparently a lot of times people that have this issue are people that have a lot of success in what they've done. They have accolades and things like that. Yeah. So reminding yourself that you did successfully reach these milestones, make a list that you can revisit.
Yeah.
was one thing. It was linked on the same website that I had referenced earlier. Amy Morin, who is a therapist, suggests mentoring somebody else to prove yourself worthy, or like that you have these skill sets or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. And then my other thought was just teaching. So like in my case, for example, I could teach a class on like how, like beginning crochet or something like that. If crochet makes me feel inadequate, teaching somebody else can kind of like boost your, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know, esteem,
Confidence.
whatever.
Exactly.
That feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, thank you. And then the other thing I wrote down was just online communities that you could approach this two different ways. From like a support stance, if this is really something that's affecting you. Like I always say, there's something about literally every subject on the internet. So like, I'm sure you could find a forum about people suffering from imposter syndrome, and you guys could like, you know, commiserate with each other or see what works for other people and can that work for you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or find a forum that is in your subject of interest or your area of expertise, and go see what the forum's about. Can you help people? Do they have questions? You know, they need help identifying a stone, and you're like, oh, that's blah, 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 blah. You know, something like that. Something where you can kind of display your knowledge without like actively trying to teach people, but like, you know, you can kind of gauge how much do I know, and then see for yourself like, oh, I guess I actually do know, you know, more than I thought I did, kind of thing.
Yep.
So
I like that one.
All right. Well, oh, the other thing I did want to mention, one more thing. It's going to segue me into like kind of the end of this video, but I was going to say that when you have this problem of imposter syndrome, it kind of leads into lowering your self-worth, and then also kind of trails into like negative self-talk. And so I was just going to say, if that's something you feel like you can relate to or like you identify with, we did a podcast on negative self-talk, like specifically. And if you guys want to give that a listen, I will link that at the end of the show. But just wanted to say, just throw that out there that we do continue this discussion as far as that goes. But yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Work on it if you need to. Get that therapist if you need to. Honestly, I feel like everyone could use a therapist, really. But who doesn't have issues these days? Am I right? And so, with all that said, did you have anything else to add?
I think that's it.
All
I think that's it. It's a work in progress, so don't give up.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. All right. Well, on that note,
that I heard.
Dad is upstairs playing with the boys, and so they're all screaming like crazy. I'm interested to go see what they're doing up there. But anyway, all right, that's going to be it for this show. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you're not done hanging out, please check out the podcast that we just referenced, Negative Self-Talk. Don't do that to yourself. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to see you on the next one.
Bye.